So the first lecture was about what is programming. So let me give you a brief introduction. Like we humans need to communicate with each other in some language that is understandable by everyone, which you can understand and I can understand too. So if I want you to perform some tasks, then I have to communicate with you in a way that you understand clearly. Similarly, if we want the computer to perform some specific operations or tasks, then we have to communicate with this. But unfortunately, we cannot communicate with computer directly in English or any human language. So the computer have its own language that is known as programming languages. So if we want to communicate with the computer, then we must learn that language that is understandable by the computer. Now, these programming languages are not directly understood by the computer. Computer understand only zeros and ones. But you can say that the programming language is a bridge that can connect us with the computer in some way. Now, between these high-level programming languages and the computer 0 and 1 languages, we have a compiler or interpreter. Just like if two peoples are there from two different countries and they have to communicate with each other and they don't understand each other languages, we have an interpreter or a language translator between them who translate the language of both countries so that they can understand what they want to say. Similarly, to communicate with computer, we have two types of languages: high-level languages and low-level languages. High-level languages are the type of languages that are close to human and far from computer. But low-level languages are the languages that are more closer to computers and far from. But we cannot directly understand low-level language. So that's why we learn high-level that are more likely similar or more likely to English. So that's why we try to understand high-level languages, and with the help of a compiler, we use different IDEs or different, you can say, compilers to translate that high-level languages into computer own language so that it can perform specific operations. So that is why we use programming languages. That is what a computer programming language is. Now, to learn high-level languages, our main focus is high-level languages. There are multiple languages. We have C, C++. C is known as our main language or the first language that as a beginner, everyone have to learn. Then we have C++, Java, Python, multiple there. But now, as the technology is changing day by day, our programming languages are categorized into two parts: the programming language and the scripting languages. Now, how these two languages are differ from each other depends upon the syntax. Like the programming language have a different syntax and the scripting language has a different syntax. Like you just need to write a basic script. Now, what is a syntax? Syntax means the rules to write something. Like in English, we have to follow a syntax that the first letter of the sentence should be capital. There should be a full stop at the end of each and every. Similar. For doing everything, you have to follow a rule. That is known as syntax in programming. Like in your educational institute, You have to follow a specific dress code as your uniform, or multiple things you have to do. Similarly, here in programming language, to write a specific code or a program, you have to learn its syntax. Okay, so these are some basics of language. Now we have multiple programming languages like procedural with the help of what is procedure means functions. Now, what are functions we will learn in the upcoming lectures, but to give you a brief overview. Functions are known as the basic building blocks, where, for example, you want to add two numbers again and again, multiple times, and you don't know how many times I have to add. So instead of writing the same code like 3 plus 4 or whatever that number is again and again, we write a specific block of code where you just enter two numbers and the result will be printed itself. That is known as a function. You just write a basic logic. You don't need to write the numbers again. You don't need to write the additional operator again and then to do that. So these procedural languages provide you a benefit to add that numbers on the basis of a specific logic. So we will learn all of these things in detail. Then we have functional programming. It is same as procedural. And then we will learn in this course object-oriented. Now we have another type of programming language, that is the object-oriented programming language. Like in functional programming, we used to write specific building blocks or logics that is known as function. But in object-oriented, we used to define classes. Then on the basis of classes, we classify objects and then we do write our code. So that was the basic. Now, the most important that you have to learn in each and every programming language. So before getting started, I will like to share the IDE which we are going to use in this course. What to do first? You have to write here. We go back. You just try to write here Google Collaboratory. And then when you click here, you just need to open a recent file, or if you don't want to open, you can just click here on new notebook and a new notebook will be open for you. Okay, like this. And this is what is IDE. I told you that the computer doesn't directly understand the high level languages like Python, C, C++. So to translate that high level language into the language of computers like zeros and ones, we need a compiler or IDE that can debug that code, that can translate that code into zeros and ones. To run that or to compile that, we use these IDEs. Now we have two types of language translators in programming language. Like the first one is the compiler and the second one is the interpreter. The difference between the compiler and interpreter is that the interpreter will translate the code line by line, whereas compiler will compile or convert your code as a whole. At the end, it will debug your code and then give you result. So this is Google Colab where we are going to write our code. So let me define. If you want to open a new file or you want to upload your own notebook, you want to open a new notebook, you can go there. If you want to download that, so there are multiple options. You can also go through that. We will write our code here. If I click here on this hamburger icon, so it will take some time to open. But to write a code, we can click on this code option. If you want to add a text, we will click here. Then when we will press this run button, then our code will be compiled itself, or it can be executed after writing that code. Here are some other features, like if you want to delete the section, then you can delete. If you want to write a comment here, you can add the comment. If you want to copy that, you can. So we have multiple options here. We will further explore here. If you want to divide your code in sections, then we will click here. Like here, we have a new section. I will click here, and then I will write variable. And then now I want to add code, so I will write here. So we have a section, so let's delete this one. Delete this. Now we have a section variable in which I am going to write code here. So if you want to add text here under that section, here you can also add that text. So we currently don't need, so I will delete. So that is the basic introduction to IDE and what is Google Colab, what is programming language. Now, what is Python? Why we are going to study this? Python is one of the scripting language. What is the difference between a scripting and a programming language itself? Mostly the programming languages are case sensitive. Without even you don't add or put a semicolon at the end, then you might face errors. Upper and lower case letters can also make problems. So scripting languages are way better. Even Python is way better than that. If you want to write your machine learning code or deep learning code, so mostly Python is preferred because it is very easy to use. It is not case sensitive, or it is not typically used. We don't need to define data types itself for specific variables. So what are variables, constants, we are going to study in this course. So I think the recording of the first two lectures are available. So if you can view that, then we will go towards the lecture number 3. Or if you want me to repeat, then I will start with the variables again. So let me know. Okay, getting started with the variables. The very first thing in programming language. What are variables? The IDE or even the computer processor itself have no memory. Now you might say that how computer doesn't have its own memory. We have hard disks, we have RAM. That are the memories that are stored very closely to the processor. The processor, the CPU itself has no memory. So even the IDE, now this IDE is running on your CPU or your processor. Mainly the files are reside inside C drives. Now, to store something for a specific time, like you want to store your data until your code is executed, we need variables. So we will understand with examples. But first, if you want to print something or you want to display something, then you just need to write print, and then like this. And if I click this button, it is going to give us the output. So when you, because this Google Collaboratory is used online, so it might take some time to load. See, it is giving us the output hello world. Now, what is print statement? So you have seen many softwares. So you have seen many softwares on the display screen, some sort of output is printed. To display such kind of text or such kind of things, to even if I say in simple words, To print something on the computer screen, we use print statement. The print statement is used to print the output. Okay. So this is the print statement. Then, so that was the print statement. After that, now let's suppose here if I print 3 plus 4, we get the output 7. Now, I also want to print 4 plus 7. Now, it is giving us the output 11, but 7 is also printing there. So, let's print something else. Now, you might notice that we have 7, we have 11 for this, we have 11, but the 11 for this is missing. But we want the result to be printed for all of these 3 statements. Why the compiler is giving us the 2? I told you that the processor itself have no memory, right? Now, for that purpose, we need some sort of place where I can store these numbers so that whenever the compiler will read this, it can easily give me the output. So what are variables? Variables are the temporary locations that can be used to hold some sort of values. Like now, if I undo this, now instead of that, I take a variable A. Variable, you can give any name to variable. There are some specific rules that you have to follow while declaring a variable. Declaring means by initializing, by defining that variable. Now, you can use small letters. You can variable name should not be more than 32 characters. One first rule. Special symbols are not allowed it in the case if you are using Python. But there are all more rules. I will explain it later. But keep in mind till now that no special symbol should be used at the start. The variable name shouldn't be more than 31 character long. And I think these two rules should be keep in mind too. So I use a variable, I give a variable name A where I will hold a value 3. Now I will have a variable B where I can write any no. Now I want to print the result of A plus B. So can I write this? How will I write? Maybe I can write it like this. Start. So how I will write? Maybe I can write this. So let's see what happened. It is giving us result. But what if I only want to use this 12? Means the result of A plus B. I don't want to use this 5 plus 7 again and again. Means I want to say that I just want to use the result of A plus B. Means whatever the value stored here, I want to add something else in. So for that purpose, if I want to use this result further, I can store it into another value like this. So instead of printing A plus B, I just need to print like this, the third variable where the result is stored. So it is giving us the same result. So this is variable. Then after that, we have constants. No, one more. We can change the value of a variable anytime. I told you. No. If I write A and I write 9 here, what will happen? So now the result is changed. So it means that we can change the value of a variable anytime. But we have constants, means the value which cannot be changed. Can you change the value of pi? No, because pi have a fixed value that is 3.1416 or 22 by 7, right? We cannot change it. We cannot change the value of e. So constants are something whose value cannot be changed. So these are the two important terms in programming language and also in scripting language, variables and constants. So if you want to change the value of a specific thing, then we use variables. But if you want the value same, then we go with constants. Like we have different constants like pi. So you know the value of pi, that is 3.1469. So we cannot change this value, right? So that is constant. So this is the main difference between a variable and constant. The value of the variable can be changed, but the value of the constant cannot be changed. So clear? Any questions in your mind?
No, miss.
Okay.